Hey there, English learners! Welcome back to English Around Me. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Alex. How's everyone doing today?
You know, Alex, I was just thinking. One of the most common questions people ask each other is, how was your weekend?
Oh, absolutely. Whether you're at work on Monday morning, meeting new friends, or just making small talk, this question comes up all the time.
Right. And for English learners, it's such a perfect opportunity to practice your speaking skills. But sometimes it can feel a bit scary, right? Like, what should I say? How do I make it interesting?
Exactly. That's why today we're going to help you become confident talking about your weekend. We'll share our own weekend stories first, just like two friends chatting.
Then we'll break down the grammar and vocabulary you need, give you lots of practice time, and share some secrets for keeping those weekend conversations flowing naturally.
So whether you had an exciting adventure or just relaxed at home, by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to talk about it in English.
Sounds good? All right then, let's dive in. Alex, I have to ask, how was your weekend?
Oh, thanks for asking. It was actually really nice. You know how I love my Saturday morning runs?
Oh yes, you're always talking about running.
Well, I went for a run in Central Park. The weather was just perfect, sunny but not too hot, you know? There's nothing better than a good run when the weather's like that.
That sounds lovely. I'm always impressed by people who can get up early for exercise. I definitely can't do that.
Well, after the run, I was pretty hungry, so I met my friend Tom for brunch at this new cafe downtown.
What did you have?
I had avocado toast with a cappuccino, and Tom ordered these huge pancakes with berries. We ended up staying there for over 2 hours just chatting and catching up.
I love when that happens. There's something so nice about a long, relaxed brunch with a good friend.
What about you, Sarah? How did you spend your Saturday? Did you do anything special?
Well, I had a pretty relaxed day compared to your active morning. I actually slept in until 10 a.m., which felt absolutely amazing.
Oh, I'm jealous. That sounds perfect.
I know, right? Then I did some grocery shopping and spent the afternoon reading in my garden. In the evening, my sister Emily came over and we watched a movie together.
Oh, nice. What did you watch?
We saw that new romantic comedy, Love Actually in Paris. It was quite funny, actually. Emily kept laughing so loud.
That's so Emily. And what about Sunday?
Sunday was really special. I visited my grandmother. We cooked lunch together. She taught me how to make her famous apple pie. Then, we played cards and she beat me at poker every single time.
That's amazing. My Sunday was more active. I went hiking with some friends from work.
Oh, where did you go?
We climbed Bear Mountain, about an hour from the city. The view from the top was absolutely incredible. You could see for miles and miles.
That sounds beautiful. Did you take lots of photos?
Of course. I posted some on Instagram. After the hike, we were completely exhausted, so we grabbed pizza on the way home. It was the perfect end to a great weekend.
That does sound perfect. You know, Alex, as we were just chatting about our weekends, I noticed we used a lot of really useful grammar and vocabulary.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think our listeners probably picked up on that too. Should we take a closer look at some of those patterns?
Great idea. So, listeners, did you notice how Alex and I were talking about our weekends? We were describing things that happened in the past, finished actions and experiences.
Exactly. In English, when we talk about finished actions in the past, we use the past simple tense. Now don't worry, we're not going to give you complicated grammar rules.
Right. We want to keep this practical. Let's focus on the verbs you'll actually use when talking about weekends.
Perfect. So, some verbs are regular. That means we just add ed to make the past form. For example, I said, I stayed there for 2 hours. We chatted and caught up. And I posted some photos.
Stayed, chatted, posted. All regular verbs with ed at the end. But here's the thing. Many of the most common weekend activities use irregular verbs.
And irregular verbs don't follow the ed pattern. They change in different ways. But don't panic. Let's look at the most important ones for talking about weekends.
First, go becomes went. Alex said, I went for a run. I went hiking. This is probably the most useful weekend verb.
Absolutely.
Let's say this together. Ready? I went hiking.
I went hiking.
I went for a run.
I went for a run.
Then we have do, which becomes did. We use this in questions like, what did you do? And statements like, I did some shopping. Let's practice. What did you do?
What did you do?
I did some shopping.
I did some shopping. Then there's see, which becomes saw. For example, we saw a movie. I saw my friends. Your turn. Give it a try. We saw a movie.
We saw a movie.
I saw my friends.
I saw my friends.
And have becomes had. For example, I had avocado toast. We had a great time. I had a relaxing day. Let's practice. We had a great time.
We had a great time.
I had a relaxing day.
I had a relaxing day. Let me give you a few more really common ones. Get becomes got. For example, I got up late. We got pizza. Let's practice. I got up late.
I got up late.
We got pizza.
We got pizza. Meet becomes met. For example, I met my friend Tom. Let's say, I met my friends.
I met my friends.
And spend becomes spent. For example, I spent 3 hours reading. Let's practice. I spent 3 hours reading.
I spent 3 hours reading. Now for questions, remember to use did plus the base form of the verb. So not what did you went, but what did you go? Repeat after me. What did you do?
Where did you go?
Who did you see?
What time did you get up?
Right. The pattern is always did plus base verb.
And here's a tip. Don't worry about memorizing all these right now. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
Exactly. Speaking of natural, let's talk about some of the vocabulary and phrases we used. I think there were some really useful expressions in our conversation.
You're right, Sarah. There were lots of useful words and phrases.
Let's start with time expressions, because these really help make your weekend stories clear and organized.
Good point. We used on Saturday morning, on Saturday afternoon, in the evening, on Sunday. These help your listener follow your story.
And we used connecting words like after that and then. For example, Alex said, after the run, I was hungry. These words show the sequence of events.
Right. Now let's talk about some weekend activity vocabulary. Sarah, you used sleep in. Can you explain that one?
Of course. Sleep in means to wake up later than usual. I said, I slept in until 10 a.m. It's different from just sleep. It specifically means sleeping late.
Great. And I used catch up when I talked about my brunch with Tom. Catching up means talking with someone you haven't seen for a while and sharing news about your lives.
Perfect. And Alex, you used grab when you talked about getting pizza. Grab is a really common informal way to say get something quickly.
Exactly. We grabbed pizza. Let's grab coffee. I need to grab my keys. It's super useful for informal situations.
Another useful phrase is hang out. This means spending relaxed, informal time with people, like I hung out with my sister or we hung out at the cafe. Pay attention to this. Hang out becomes hung out in the past tense.
Now let's talk about describing experiences. We both use some great adjectives. Sarah, you said the movie was quite funny.
Right. Quite is a nice way to say something was moderately good. Not amazing, but definitely good. For example, quite funny, quite nice, quite interesting.
And I said the view was absolutely incredible, and the weather was perfect. When something is really, really good, we can use stronger words like amazing, incredible, fantastic, perfect.
We also described how we felt. Alex, you said you were exhausted after hiking.
Yes. Exhausted means very, very tired. And Sarah, you said your day was relaxing. That means peaceful and not stressful.
Exactly. Other feeling words for weekends might be refreshing, exciting, busy, peaceful.
Now let's talk about conversation starters and responses. We used some great ones.
Yeah. How was your weekend? Is the classic starter, but you can also say, what did you get up to? Which is a bit more informal and means, what did you do?
Let's practice this phrase together. How was your weekend?
How was your weekend?
And when someone tells you about their weekend, you want to respond. We used, that sounds lovely. That sounds perfect. That sounds fun.
That sounds. Plus, an adjective is a perfect way to show you're listening and interested.
Another useful word is actually. We both used it to add surprising or interesting information. For example, it was actually really good. I actually slept in until 10.
Great point. Actually makes your stories more engaging. Okay, so we've covered a lot of vocabulary and grammar. Now it's time for our listeners to practice.
I love this part. Are you ready to speak, everyone?
All right, listeners, now it's your turn to practice. Remember, there's no one listening except us, so don't be shy. Speaking out loud is the best way to improve.
Exactly. We'll start with some simple substitution exercises. I'll say a sentence, you repeat it, then we'll give you a new word to substitute. Ready?
Here we go. First sentence. On Saturday, I went shopping.
Good. Now try the same sentence but change shopping to swimming. On Saturday, I went swimming.
Great. Now try hiking. On Saturday, I went hiking.
Perfect. Let's try another one. I had lunch with my family.
Now change family to friends. I had lunch with my friends.
Now try colleagues. I had lunch with my colleagues.
Beautiful. Now comes the fun part. Personal questions about your last weekend. Take your time and remember we can't hear you, so just relax and speak naturally.
First question. What time did you wake up on Saturday?
Great. Here's an example answer. I woke up at 9 a.m. Or, I slept in until 10:30.
Next, what did you have for breakfast on the weekend?
Perfect. You might say, I had pancakes and coffee, or I went to a cafe and had a sandwich.
Who did you spend time with?
Nice. For example, I spent time with my family. Or, I hung out with my friends from work.
Did you go anywhere interesting?
Excellent. You could answer, yes, I went to the park, or no, I stayed home and relaxed.
What was the best part of your weekend?
Wonderful. Examples might be, the best part was cooking with my mom. Or, I really enjoyed reading in the garden.
That was amazing. I'm sure you did great. Remember, every time you speak English, you're improving, even if you make mistakes.
Absolutely. Mistakes are part of learning. Now, let's talk about how to use all this language in real conversations with real people. This is one of my favorite parts because this is where the magic happens. Taking what you've learned and using it in real life.
Exactly. So let's imagine you're at work on Monday morning, or you're meeting a friend and someone asks, "How was your weekend?" What happens next?
Well, first, don't panic. It's a friendly question. People genuinely want to know and they're not expecting a perfect answer.
Right. And here's what usually happens after you answer. They'll ask follow-up questions. This is good. It means they're interested.
So they might say things like, really? How was it? Or, that sounds fun. Who did you go with? Or, where exactly did you go?
Or they might ask for your opinion. What did you think of it? Or, would you recommend it?
The key is not to worry about these follow-up questions. They're actually helping you continue the conversation.
And here's a really important tip. Always ask back. After you answer their question, turn it around. Say, "What about you? How was your weekend?"
Yeah. And if they mention a place, you can ask, have you been there before? Or, did you do anything interesting? This shows you're interested in them too.
Yeah, conversations are like tennis. You hit the ball back and forth. It's not just about you answering questions.
Perfect analogy. Now, here's another crucial tip. Don't try to tell them everything you did. Pick one or two interesting things and add some details.
Right. Instead of saying, "I went shopping, then had lunch, then went home, then watched TV, then went to bed," pick the most interesting part.
For example, you could say, I discovered this amazing little bookstore downtown. They have a cafe inside, and I ended up staying there for 3 hours reading.
Perfect. That gives the other person something specific to respond to. They might ask about the bookstore, what you were reading, or share their own reading habits.
Exactly. You're giving them hooks. Interesting details they can grab onto to continue the conversation.
And don't forget about emotions and feelings. Instead of just, "I went to a movie," try, "I saw this hilarious comedy that had me laughing so hard I cried."
Yes, people connect with emotions. For example, you can say, I felt so relaxed. It was exhausting but so worth it. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
And remember to use the vocabulary we learned today. Words like actually, quite, and phrases like catch up make you sound more natural and fluent.
And remember, if you don't understand a follow-up question, it's totally okay to say, sorry, could you repeat that? Or, what do you mean?
Absolutely. Native speakers do this too. Communication is more important than being perfect.
All right. I think we've given our listeners lots to think about and practice. Should we wrap this up?
I think so. But first, let's quickly review what we've covered today.
What a great episode. Let's quickly recap what we've learned today.
We started by having a natural conversation about our weekends, showing you exactly how these conversations sound between friends.
Then we focused on past simple tense, especially those irregular verbs like went, did, saw, and had that you'll use all the time.
We explored useful vocabulary. Words like sleep in, catch up, grab, and hang out. Plus those important time expressions and connecting words.
And we shared practical tips for real conversations, like asking follow-up questions and sharing interesting details, not just basic facts.
Remember, the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to communicate and connect with people. Every conversation is practice.
So here's a fun challenge. This week, ask someone about their weekend in English, maybe a classmate or a colleague.
Start small if you need to. Maybe just how was your weekend? And see where the conversation goes.
Great advice. The more you use this language, the more comfortable you'll become. And who knows, you might have some really interesting conversations.
And if you want extra practice, try describing your own weekend out loud to yourself. Use the vocabulary and grammar we covered today. That's all for today's episode of English Around Me. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sarah. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember, every conversation is a chance to improve your English.